Hi guys, my name is Sarah. I'm one of the tutors here at Fraser's, and in the next series of videos we're going to be going through a bit of a crash course in verbal reasoning for the UCAT. So just as a quick overview, this section has 11 passages with 44 questions in total and 22 minutes to get through the section, okay? So I'm sure you can do the maths. You get about 30 seconds for each question, but you also have to factor in your reading time for the passages, which is something to keep in mind as we go through. So what is verbal reasoning? Basically, this section is all about your ability to think critically, to analyze passages, draw out key information, to come to some conclusion based on the information that you're given, and then being able to evaluate the validity of different responses to work out which one is the most suitable for the question that you've been asked. And a kind of key trick in these sorts of questions is working out what the most correct answer is. So sometimes one of the options can be, maybe factually correct, but it doesn't actually answer the question that's being asked. So you really do need to kind of put your thinking cap on here, be really critical, very analytical as you go through these questions. So the forms that the question take are either multiple choice, so your standard sort of MCQ question, but you can also get these true, false, can't tell sorts of questions. So the trick with these ones is being able to distinguish between opinion that's given in the passage and between fact, and also being able to work out kind of the difference between what has been stated in a passage and what you've inferred, or maybe what your bias is directing you towards. So you really need to be aware of your kind of preconceived notions with these passages, and be able to distinguish between what you think and what the author thinks, because that's a really common way that students trip up on this style of question. All right, so you might be wondering why this is even relevant to something like the UCAT. Verbal reasoning, if you're a doctor, maybe that you might think that's not so relevant, or just any health professional. But it's all about the cognitive skills here. So I'll skip back to the marking in a moment. So with the cognitive skills for verbal reasoning, if you have a look through these 6 different types, you can see that there are a lot of really close links to what you need to do as a health professional. So your ability to interpret information, so to take a whole lot of complex info in, to analyze it, which is one of your other skills, and be able to come to some coherent conclusion at the end. Your inference skills are really important as well, your ability to kind of read between the lines, and to understand what hasn't been said as well as what has been. So, you might get a series of arguments from an author in a passage, and you need to be able to work out what that actually means at the end of the day. So that inference is really important, and that obviously applies in medicine as well, being able to understand what information or a patient might be trying to convey, kind of beyond the words that they're saying. Application is where you're thinking about, you might be given a series of rules or something, and then you're asked to apply that to new information. So you need to be able to not only understand the information you've been given, but then be able to use it in a similar or maybe a different setting as well. And then emotional reasoning and self-regulation kind of are bunched in together. Thinking about your ability to recognize your own bias with self-regulation and make sure that you aren't applying your opinions to a text. You're working purely within the realms of the author's opinions. And emotional reasoning, being able to pick out emotional tones in a passage, work out, the tone of an author, things like that, which are really important in this section. So how is this section marked? As we kind of already alluded to, verbal reasoning is all about the most correct answer, the most appropriate. So you'll only be getting 1 mark for each of these questions. There aren't any partial marks here. And the raw score that you get is converted into the scale, the same with the other sections, between 300 and 900. And that kind of gives you an indication of where you sit within the cohort for this section. And the 2018 mean score for the UK UCAT, because of course this is quite new to Australia, so we haven't got the data yet, was 567. So just something to keep in mind as to what sort of, what the average is for this section, and what you kind of maybe want to be aiming above to make your application the most competitive. Alright, so in the next video we're going to be going through, or in the next series of videos we'll be going through some of the different question types. So we'll see you there.